Hey guys, Nate here from Pop's Culture Shop, bringing you a Dragon Ball Z deck tech. Today we're talking about Red Vegeta. With any red deck in Dragon Ball Z, you feel like you're playing combo, and this deck is no exception. Most, if not all of our cards say raise our anger, because we're trying to get from personality 1 to personality 4 as fast as possible, and we're trying to win through most powerful personality victory. So you're going very fast, and there's a lot of cards that combo with each other to gain you as much anger as possible. We're trying out this Red Vegeta deck. I've played different types of red decks. I've tried Tien, which was very good. I've tried Red Krillin, which was surprisingly very powerful. And I've been trying Red Galick. We switched over to this Red Vegeta deck for a couple different cards that we can run, which we're going to talk about later. The deck is very powerful. Let's get started. These are the physical attacks that we're playing in the deck. The card that we're most excited to play in this Red Vegeta deck is Red Palm Strike. The reason that we're trying out the Red Vegeta deck is because Red Palm Strike is villains only. It's a physical attack for one stage. It says raise your anger 1. If it hits, you can use a critical damage effect. It also has some other text on the card. For the rest of combat, if your opponent uses endurance, you can lower your anger 1 level to reduce that endurance to 0. So it could be important if you're trying to get a critical effect in, but mostly, if it hits, it's 1 stage for 2 anger. And it's a pretty powerful card if you can get it fired off. The rest of the cards that we see in the physical attack pile are pretty stock for any red deck. They all say raise your anger 1, which is very important, I think, in a red deck where you're trying to combo out and go faster than your opponent. We have the Red Shoulder Grab, Red Double Strike combo. Red Shoulder Grab says for the rest of combat, all of your attacks are considered to deal critical damage. Red Double Strike stays on the battlefield to be used a second time. So essentially, if you have your Red Shoulder Grab down, and then you Red Double Strike, you're gaining 4 anger if the Double Strike hits both times. Red Lightning Slash, pretty stock for any red deck. If it hits, you can lower your anger 2 to destroy all allies and drills. Really important for board control, really important against Ginyu and other orange decks. Devastating Blow, another great control card, also says raise your anger 1 on top of it and lower your opponent's anger 2. Good against the mirror, really good against the meching style decks because you can choose and exile 3 different cards from your opponent's discard pile. Red Right Cross, it's a good card, but we're only playing 2 of them. It says that it costs 4 stages to play. In this Vegeta deck, you get taxed a lot because you don't have a lot of blocks, so you don't have very many stages to use during the course of the game. So 4 stages is a little too heavy for us to pay for 3 cards in the deck, so we're only playing 2 Red Right Cross, but it also says raise your anger 2. And Red Knee Lift is another great card, stock for any red style deck. We just talked about the physical attacks that we have in the deck. Now let's talk about the energy attacks. The first one we have is the other reason that we're trying out this Red Vegeta deck, Vegeta's Galick Gun. Vegeta's Galick Gun is 2 stages for 6 life cards. Damage from this attack cannot be prevented, which means they can't use endurance on it. If it crits, use 2 critical damage effects instead of 1. You also get to raise your anger 1. So, if they don't have a block, it hits for 6 life cards, they get no endurance off of it, and essentially you're raising your anger 3 off 1 card. Really great in our red deck, and I really like it, and it's the reason that we're actually playing Red Vegeta. Enraged Blast is another staple for any red deck. An energy attack that raises your anger 2 is really great. We also have Red Static Shot, which on an open board is really awesome. 2 stages, 5 life cards. Your opponent can't use endurance on your styled attacks this combat, and if it hits, you raise your anger 2. Another energy combat where they can't use endurance. If it hits, you're gaining 3 anger. Really great, 1 card, 3 anger, and it's really good in this red deck that we're trying to build. Now let's talk about the blocks that we get to run in our Red Vegeta deck. Obviously, right in the center, we have Time as a Warrior's Tool, a staple for any Dragon Ball Z deck. The top 2 blocks we have are Red Restraint and Red Sacrifice. Most of the time we're actually using those to gain anger instead of using them to block an attack. Red Restraint says if it's discarded off a card effect, you raise your anger 1. Red Sacrifice says if it's discarded off a card effect, you raise your anger 2. Really great because in the Red Mastery, whenever you go up a level, you get to draw a card and discard a card. So you can discard one of those blocks and immediately gain some anger. Red Blocking Hand and Red Energy Defensive Stance are both really great red blocks that we like in this deck. They're very powerful. Red Blocking Hand, obviously the best red block in the game, and Red Energy Defensive Stance, a really great energy block, and we like to use both of them in this deck. Now we're going to talk about the setups and the Dragon Balls that we're playing in this deck. To start off, we have Red Blaze. Red Blaze says raise your Anger 1, Rejuvenate 2, and use a critical damage effect. With your Red Mastery, that means that you're raising your Anger 2 off of this one card. Really great, staple in any red deck. The next setup we have is Red Destiny. It's been floating around some different Red Mastery decks, but I think it definitely deserves a spot in any red deck that you're playing. Its power is raise your Anger 2, and for the remainder of combat, your opponent's attacks deal -2 stages and -2 life cards. I think that a huge hole that Red has is that life card attacks can get through due to our lack of blocks that we have access to. So Red Destiny lessens the amount of life card damage that you're taking from your opponents, and I think it's a really great card in this deck. Visiting the Past, we're obviously only playing 2 because it's limit 2 per deck, staple in any Dragon Ball Z deck that you're playing. The Dragon Balls that we're playing are Dragon Ball 3 and Dragon Ball 5. These Dragon Balls say raise your Anger, so that's why we're playing them in this deck. We're really only interested in any Dragon Balls that say raise your Anger. The last flex spot we have for our setups is Villainous Visage. This is one of the only cards in the deck that's really working against the mechanics of trying to gain as much anger as we can, but it's a really great card, and we're just trying it out. To wrap things up, let's talk about the different events that we're playing in our Red Vegeta deck. Our first event is Red Blazing Aura. As I previously stated, a big problem that Red has is letting giant life card attacks through our defenses. Red Blazing Aura says raise your Anger 1 level, and for the remainder of combat, your opponent's attacks deal -3 stages of damage and -3 life cards of damage. This is really great, really helps fill this hole that Red has, and I think it definitely earned its spot in this deck. Our next card is Red City Destruction, really a staple for any Red deck. Its power is use a critical damage effect. Your Anger cannot be lowered for the rest of your turn through critical damage effects, so your opponent can't lower your Anger and try and control you that way. And until the start of your next turn, effects that require you to lower your Anger are reduced by 1 to a minimum of 0. Combos with some of the cards that we're playing in our deck, like Red Lightning Slash, and it's a really great card in this deck. Our last card is Red Observation. Really a great card, staple for any red deck. It's a board wipe, and we really like playing it in this deck, just like you would like to play it in any other red deck. That's it for this deck tech. I hope you like my take on Red Vegeta. It's a deck that I'm trying out. I would definitely appreciate any comments that you guys have. Thanks for watching. Tune in next time for some more Dragon Ball Z deck techs.